What's up, Vetters? Patrick here with Vetted. Today, we look into the story of Paul Bennewitz, the man who was told lies about UFOs by our own American government, specifically the United States Air Force. Here's AJ from the Y-Files to explain a little bit better.
Paul Bennewitz lived next to a large Air Force base. When he saw colored lights in the sky, he assumed they were experimental aircraft. Then he started picking up strange radio signals that seemed to be an alien language. He took his findings to the Air Force. Publicly, they denied the UFO alien story, but privately, they confirmed Paul's findings. The Air Force even funded his UFO research. He spent several years gathering evidence and reporting it to the authorities. Then, he ended up in a mental institution.
And the reason I wanted to make a video about this is because Jesse Michaels just released an interview with author Greg Bishop, who wrote this book right here, Project Beta, about the story of Paul Bennewitz. So let's dive in. Here's a trailer that Jesse released about his interview with Greg Bishop. But again, stay with me because we have a lot to cover. And during my research for this video, I uncovered something quite shocking that no one is talking about.
UFOs are a Swiss Army knife for intelligence. They can use them for anything. He was seeing lights like out somewhere on the base, like lifting up off the ground and then flying over a mountain and going down. And they were just glowing orbs. And he said that he could look through binoculars and sometimes see like Air Force people or somebody walking around them before they took off. He built apparently a setup and started listening to transmissions coming from the base. He said there were dinosaurs and like old like Roman battles and stuff. The Air Force had taken him in a helicopter, flown him up to northwestern New Mexico, and showed him stuff saying, look, we think there's something going on here. And they actually put jeeps and like water tanks and all kind of stuff in this place as props.
And then he starts to kind of lose his mind. Is that right? Or
yeah, as things get worse, he went there with a camera and took pictures. Bennewitz was there with like a rifle and a pistol, and he said, you know, they're coming. You have to come in the house right now.
The idea that UFOs are a cover for just prosaic technology is totally wrong. In fact, it's the opposite. Prosaic technology is often used as a cover for UFO. It's an interesting discussion.
Yeah, probably both. In fact, it's demonstrably both. Imagine the Bennewitz operation as a 24-hour-long stage play. And Bennewitz is 5 minutes in one scene, not even 5 minutes.
Now, I've got a special clip I want to share from that video later on. But first, let's hear again from AJ from the Y-Files, who did a phenomenal video a couple years ago about this story. I'll put a link in the description, but this part in particular really stuck out to me.
The Mutual UFO Network, or MUFON, holds a convention every year. In 1989, Bill Moore was a speaker at that convention. And during his talk, he admitted that the US government had been actively spreading lies about UFOs for years, and he knew this because he was helping them to do it.
And it was Richard Dodie, then with AFOSI at Kirtland Air Force Base, who soon came into play as the middleman in that process. Shortly thereafter, it became apparent to me that my supplying information to the government through Dodie on the activities of Paul Bennewitz, APRO, and to a lesser extent several other individuals, was to be a part of this equation. I also discovered that whatever it was that Bennewitz was involved with, he was the subject of considerable interest on the part of not one, but several government agencies, and that they were actively trying to defuse him by pumping as much disinformation through him as he could possibly absorb.
He was practically booed off the stage.
Frankly, I'm a little ashamed of some people in this audience, regardless of what you believe, what you hear, or not.
It was really hard for these people to learn that everything they believed regarding UFOs was a lie. And this confession ended Bill Moore's career in UFO research. Bill Moore said that he was one of several high-profile UFO personalities who had made deals with Dodie, though he never revealed the names. He also said Dodie was feeding disinformation to tabloids like the National Enquirer and to journalists like Linda Moulton Howe. The disinformation campaign developed by the Air Force OSI and executed by Agent Richard Dodie was a success. There were now so many wild stories circulating about UFOs that it was impossible for actual earnest research to cut through the noise. Another goal of the campaign was to marginalize believers, make it so mainstream scientists and politicians and reporters would never publicly admit to believing in UFOs. The stories were too crazy. The only people publicly discussing UFOs were what you'd call fringe conspiracy nuts. This is exactly what the government wanted. But here's the thing. The key to a successful disinformation campaign is staying as close to the truth as possible. So of all the crazy UFO information that Richard Dodie spread, how much of it is true? Well, according to Richard Dodie himself, almost all of it.
I mean, this story is absolutely insane, right? You have a gentleman, Paul Bennewitz, who basically starts seeing stuff at a military base right next to him. The military, the Air Force specifically, comes to him and is like, oh, you're seeing stuff? Oh, yeah, Paul. Yeah, you're seeing UFOs, dude, and aliens, and here's some stuff, and here's this, and here's that. And the story gets crazy. And if you really want to know everything about this story, there's a great documentary called Mirage Men, which I highly recommend checking out, along with the Y-Files video that I'll put a link to, and this new Jesse Michaels interview. That trifecta will give you every bit of information about this story that you need, except for one piece that I'll reveal later on that I uncovered myself. Now, let's move forward with an interview with Rick Dodie, who is behind this whole thing. He's the one feeding Paul Bennewitz all that information that literally makes him go insane.
I'm Richard Dodie. I was assigned as a special agent with the Air Force Office of Special Investigations at Kirtland Air Force Base. I was a counterintelligence officer at the base, and one of my jobs was to conduct counterintelligence operations at the base. And during my time there, my first few months there, I was briefed into a special access program involving the U.S. government's investigation and contacts with extraterrestrial, the visitation of these extraterrestrials to Earth, and the Air Force's involvement with these extraterrestrials. And during this time, I conducted investigations regarding not just the UFO phenomena, but my primary mission, probably 60% of my time was dealt to investigating the UFO sightings and any threats imposed by these extraterrestrials on Air Force or Air Force related property.
Right. What year did you first get read into the project?
I was read into the project in the summer of 1979. Okay. And the briefing was, it was a special access program. You have a special security clearance to have access to it. And it was I was briefed into it by an Air Force colonel from Washington who came down and briefed myself and a couple other people into this program.
Now, that interview is from July 2016, which is really important. And it's Dr. Stephen Greer interviewing Rick Dodie, right? And it's this next answer that Rick Dodie gives that led me down a rabbit hole I almost couldn't get myself out of.
And do you remember if it had a code name or a project code number?
Yeah, it was the initial. How do I say this? Because there's still some classifications involved in this, I think. So it was the code name that I was briefed into. It was Yankee Black, but that was the program's briefing. It wasn't necessarily the UFOs program. It was just how it was a security code for an access program. Yankee White was access to the White House, and Yankee Black was the access that you would have to get into this program or right into the program.
Right. And what were you told during this briefing, and do you recall the colonel's name?
I'll leave the colonel's name out of it, but the briefing started with a history, U.S.'s involvement with this extraterrestrial, and it started out with a crash at Roswell, but actually, what the crash didn't actually happen in Roswell. Happened closer to Corona.
Yankee black and Yankee white, right? That's very interesting, because not too long ago, the Wall Street Journal, this past June, right, just literally a month ago, released an article that went crazy through the UFO community. But something struck my memory, right, and jogged my memory, and I remember thinking, Yankee black, where have I heard something similar? Well, in this Wall Street Journal article. Take a look at an excerpt from that very first article they released. For decades, certain new commanders of the Air Force's most classified programs, as part of their induction briefings, would be handed a piece of paper with a photo of what looked like a flying saucer. The craft was described as an anti-gravity maneuvering vehicle. The officers were told that the program they were joining, dubbed Yankee Blue, was part of an effort to reverse engineer the technology on the craft. They were told never to mention it again. Many never learned it was fake. Kirkpatrick found the practice had begun decades before and appeared to continue still. The Defense Secretary's office sent a memo out across the service in the spring of 2023, ordering the practice to stop immediately, but the damage was done. Now, I know that Wall Street Journal didn't provide any evidence for their reporting, and there's a lot of people up in arms about that article. But this Yankee Blue part really sticks out, doesn't it? Considering Rick Dodie just talked about he was briefed on a program called Yankee Black, right? I don't know. That's too much of a coincidence that there's not some sort of connection here. And Dodie is Mr. Disinformation, right? So, which he's admitted to spreading disinformation about UFOs from this Yankee program. And then the Wall Street Journal releases this article about Yankee Blue being this fake UFO program that was spread around. I don't know. Is there a connection there? Am I reading too much into that? Let me know what you think in the comments. Now, let's move on to this clip from Jesse Michaels' interview with Greg Bishop, because this part in particular was fascinating.
They needed somebody from the UFO research community as kind of a contact. So they approached, I think, a bunch of different people, and a few of them said yes, and Bill was one of them.
Do we have any sense of what Dodie had? So Dodie's obviously going to play this sort of villain role in this whole story. Mm-hmm. He's the main kind of, Air Force Office of Special Investigations agent who enters Bennewitz's life and, plants all sorts of BS and kind of screws with him mentally. Do we know anything about his history up until that point?
Who, Dodie's?
Yeah.
I don't know too much about it. All I know is what he said, and it's like, what am I going to do with what he said? He said he was a guard at Area 51. I have no idea.
It's hard to take that at face value. Yeah. Well, he also said, I think his father worked at Area 51. Are you familiar with that history? Dolan told me that. Richard Dolan.
Yeah, I think maybe. Yeah, well, Dolan will probably know.
Yeah.
I don't think he ever mentioned that, but he would probably take stories like that and kind of mix and match them.
Another interesting data point on Dodie. I know very little about him before the Bennewitz story, but he shows up at Mario Woods's case. So Mario Woods is at Ellsworth Air Force Base in South Dakota in 1977. He's a missile security officer, and he not only sees a craft.
I see this light off to my east.
He claims that these beings walked up to him. He then gets a hypnotic regression, and he discusses being inside of a craft. Mm-hmm. Wakes up 10 miles away. And I think it's dawn, so it was like the whole night had elapsed. Yeah. And his partner, Michael Johnson's in a catatonic state.
I even tried pulling his hand off that steering wheel.
And he has no idea what's happened to him. And he then is debriefed by, a slew of official, people at Ellsworth Air Force Base. And one of the guys is Rick Dodie.
Next to him was this new OSI guy named Rick Dodie.
Interesting.
Yeah, because the first time I saw him was on Ancient Aliens, and I said, I know that guy. He was at my debrief.
So that's kind of interesting as well.
What year was that? 77?
So
Oh,
it was
okay.
like a year or two before.
Yeah, well, maybe
Bennewitz.
if true, that's probably why Dodie was tracked into this.
Right.
Because I think he has an interest in the UFO subject.
'Cause I
just
believe-
just like we all do. It's just that part of
Yeah.
his job was to mess with people concerning it,
Totally.
which he enjoyed.
The weird part is like Mario's is one of the strongest cases. You know, I'm like you. I think a lot of UFO stuff is bullshit. But Mario's, to me, I've spent a lot of time with the guy. It just pattern matches to one of these nuclear cases where, like, clearly there is an overwhelming nuclear pattern that goes above and beyond, in my opinion, the ability for humans to coordinate. So it's interesting that Dodie was probably part of a debrief around a real case.
Yeah.
And then is also involved in this sort of, he's
it would make
inserting
sense.
himself as, you know, a counter intel guy in this other case.
Yeah, well, maybe when that stuff came up, they're like, well, you know, either he said something or this guy knows. You know, this is just speculation.
Yeah.
And Rositsky apparently handpicked all these people to be part of this operation. I asked more about it once, and he said, well, think of it as a giant, because what he said was the Bennewitz thing was one cog in a giant wheel connected to a bunch of other giant wheels that you would never notice. And the only reason it's noticed is because it's UFO people have kind of made it into a big story. Not that it isn't, but you know there are a lot of other parts of this counter intel that was going on in the late 70s, early 80s before the Berlin Wall fell and all that that people don't know about. And the only reason this came out is because it had to do with UFOs, so people are interested in that subject, obviously. But what he said, the other thing he said to me later was, imagine the Bennewitz operation as a 24-hour-long stage play.
Yeah, it's like you...
And Bennewitz is 5 minutes in one scene, not even 5 minutes. That's how much of the entire... Because... when UFO people and researchers, et cetera, hear about this, they're like, oh my God, it's so important. It's like, it was a tiny little piece in a big wheel that was working with a lot of other things to like, here's one more way we can, you know, mess with and vet out Soviet assets.
All right, y'all. Thanks for watching. Again, I'll put links in the description to everything so you can go check it out for yourself, especially this new Jesse Michaels interview. Every day's a gift, y'all. Peace.